I would say before you start looking at a vendor, there's some things that you should do internally and consider. First off is leveraging your EMR to the fullest capacity. Of course, any CIO is like, we're going to use our EMR, and if you're on Epic, of course you have all these bells and whistles, but when you have Meditech, we might be limited. So making sure that you're using everything in your EMR first before you go pursuing things, and making sure that everything's turned on. I would also say clean up your EMR. So we're doing this right now here at the lake. I want to go through all the drop downs from all, scheduling, pre-reg, check-in, and I want to remove anything that's, why is it even there? We click a drop down, there's 25 options. Of course, there's error. There will be error when you have so many options. So reducing things that are not necessary in certain fields for certain service types is helpful. We're doing a review of our payer master file, our insurance dictionary, to ensure that the naming conventions that the front end team members will use are consistent and they make sense to them. It might make sense to someone on the back end if it's Choice Plus or all that stuff, PPO, all the various things, but we needed to make it clear as day for a team member in the front that's choosing that insurance plan, that it's accurate and it makes sense to them when they're busy and they have 1,000 options. Limit the options. That will help you reduce clicks, touch points, all of that. Ensure that you have a streamlined process internally, or at least know your current state, so that when you start working toward AI or getting a solution to help you, that you know where those areas are that you need to improve. I would say you also need to review all of your existing vendor contracts to understand what current vendors you're using. Just making sure that there's nothing out there that you already are paying for, it's just not being used, or if there's duplicative solutions, just look at that for opportunities to cut back on expenses and update anything that you need to there. And then also make sure that there's alignment within your organization. Don't get all excited about going to find AI and then you find out, well, it's on the budget, or it's not even, something that IT is going to be able to support you with resources. Make sure you have that executive sponsor, and then your end users, your team members, your subject matter experts are involved in all that process. And then lastly, I'll just say the questions to ask. When you're on these calls with, demos and things like that, we talk about AI, we're throwing around all of these acronyms. What is AI? Well, it can mean a ton of different things to a ton of different people. So, RPA, robotic process automation, that's AI, machine learning is a type of AI, but just asking those types of things, like, hold on a second, what is that fancy acronym you just said, and what does it actually mean to me? What is that doing? So they kind of get fast and they talk fast. So just stop them and ask every question, because this is a huge decision you're making, obviously. And then ask them if they have any customers in the same state you're in, as it relates to any rules and regulations. And then just be aware if there is anything that a vendor that you're working with is, are they actually providing you the solution completely, or are they using another partner behind the scenes, like white labeled, to do a certain function? And then just be aware of who's providing all the services behind the scenes, like who's the man behind the curtain providing your solution, so that if there is something, you're just aware of where the problem might lie. And then you also may have had a bad experience in the past. You might not want to work with somebody that they're partnered with. So just being aware of those things. And then just be aware of pass-through costs, any, transaction fees, like overage fees, things like that. And then just put in anything that you think would be important to you to maintain the contract long term. So what's their downtime process? What's the resolution process? Are there any SLAs, service level agreements that you'd like to put into the contract to keep you safe? Just some things to consider there. And then again, how you're going to showcase that ROI, and then how will they help you to track and manage and measure success.